we're ready to go. So I can still see a couple of people coming through, but it's 9:33 and we shall make a start. And it's very nice to see everybody's faces. I can see 42 participants, but there's about 27 people in Florence Arts Centre. So we're almost at 100 altogether, which is fantastic. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Tom Spates, and I am part of the steering committee of the Cumbria Arts and Culture Network. Normally Kate Parry is here, she is our chair, but she's got a day off today. So Stefan Escreed, if I ask you to say hello, Stefan. Stefan is our vice chair.
Hello.
Where are you, Stefan?
I'm in sunny Bassenthwaite, the other end of the village, the nice end. Eric Cannon lives the other end.
Well, so Stefan's going to have a few things to say today as well. I am in the Brewery Arts Centre in the very nice kind of digital sort of mini cinema place. Those of you that have not been here, it's a really lovely space that's been redeveloped in the last 18 months or so, I think. There's a LEP culture meeting here, which starts at 10 o'clock, which I'm going to join at 10:30. And also, it's just good to get out and about and see people. So that's where I am today. Normally, for those of you that have not joined this call before, normally I'm sat at home with a sort of bright light in my face, a bit like, you know, being interviewed by the Stasi. And I'm normally just at home with a cup of coffee, but I'm not there today. So the plan for this morning is Ella Jarman Pinto, who was going to join us, messaged me at 7:30 this morning to say, because of a family situation, she can't join us this morning. So we'll come back to Ella at some stage in the future. She is a composer in Penrith. So if you've come just for Ella, now is the time to leave. But we've got lots more stuff to talk about this morning as well, including Stuart Armstrong, who I can see on a window, who is a filmmaker from Cumbria, who is doing a really interesting sounding short in the next few months. And it's going to tell us about that and ask for a bit of support for that as well. Got a few slides with Stuart. Then we're going to do a little what they call a news belt in journalism parlance. So I think Stefan's going to talk about his upcoming production in Keswick. Jonathan in Millam's going to talk to us about something going on there. And Ella as well, who's just messaged me. Ella, that's your moment there. So we'll do that about just after 10 o'clock. We've also got a big quarterly meeting at the Braithwaite Trust tomorrow. So Stefan, who's been beavering away organising that, is going to tell us a bit more about that as well. And also a tribute to a wonderful man called Tony Hendry, who was a poet based in Carlisle, who sadly died just a few days ago. Quite surprisingly, no one knew he was poorly, and he was the most beautiful poetry writer. And I've asked Phil Hewitson to pay a little tribute to Tony and to read one of his poems out as well. So we're going to look at that as well. And then for those of you that are based in West Cumbria or who are interested in the future cultural strategy of West Cumbria, Amy Lewis, who is from CT Consults, who are the consultants helping Allerdale and Copeland come up with that new strategy, she's going to continue a meeting for an hour on this link to invite people to talk about what they think that the strategy should be looking like. So if you want to stick around for that, and I think some people will be joining us at 10:30, then 10:30 through to 11:30 is the moment for that on this link here. That's the plan for this morning. Stefan, hello. Have we got any new faces to say hello to?
I can't see any. If you're new to the call, please raise your virtual hand or just wave, and I'll dash through the screen.
Here.
Should we say hello to Florence?
Florence Arts Posse, yes. Could you say hello? Tell us who you are and what you do, please.
Hello, I'm Faye and I'm a paint maker at Florence Arts Centre. Hi, I'm Nikki. I'm a paint maker as well. Yeah.
So this is our new team making paints and pigments for sale through the Florence Paint Makers.
Good Lord, and I asked you about the colour of your walls.
Yeah.
It wasn't set up.
There's a long story there.
Is there anyone else that's new to the call, please? I don't think there
Holly
are.
before.
Please spread the word. The network is as good as the people in it, I think. So if you're in conversation with any creatives or anyone involved with the industry, please encourage them to join. That will be a good thing. I think that's it, Tom.
Excellent. All right. Well, you're very welcome. And for those of you that have just come back or regulars, you're also all very welcome as well. The point of these calls, we've been doing them since February 2020, is just to network people together, to champion stuff that's going on in Cumbria, to celebrate stuff that's going on in Cumbria, to look for help, to publicise stuff. That's the point of these calls. I just try and make them as interesting as I possibly can. And as informal. I think the tone's really important, so please feel free to bung stuff into chat, raise your hand, ask questions. and we always try and finish bang on 10:30. So that's the point of these calls. And the fact that we've got 41 people plus about 27 people in Florence seems to suggest that some people still think they're a good thing. So we will carry on doing them, all sorts of things lined up for the future as well. Next week, by the way, we've got Andy Smith, who's the organizer of Kendall Calling. He's going to come on and talk to us about Kendall Calling. And Katie Hale, who is a writer that some of you will know of. I think she lives in Shap, certainly in central Cumbria. She's going to talk us through a year in the life of a writer. She's got a great book out called My Name is Monster, which came out, I think, last year. But also, she's really good at analysing what it's like to be a writer. How do you make a living as a writer? That's what we're going to be doing next week. But this week, we're going to kick off with Stuart Armstrong. Stuart, I'm going to invite you to come off mute and say hello to us. And I've got a little trailer lined up, and I've got your slides lined up as well. But first of all, Stuart, introduce yourself to us and tell us who you are.
Hello, thank you, Tom. Thanks for having me, everybody. I'm Stuart Armstrong. I'm from Lazenby, near Penrith, but I'm a filmmaker based in London. So I'm a screenwriter and part-time art director and also part-time producer, so a multifaceted filmmaker. I'm here today with my writing partner and director of my next project, Joseph Daly, who is somewhere.
Hello.
Hi, Joseph.
Hi, how you doing? Yeah, my name's Joseph, and like Stu said, we worked together, made a short film together last year, which we'll talk about, and this new short that we're working on.
Right, Stuart, shall I play the trailer from the one before, first of all?
Please do, yeah, thank you.
So would you like to introduce this?
Yes, so this is the trailer for our short film, which we made last year with funding from the British Film Institute and also part funding on Kickstarter through crowdfunding. And it's called The Leary.
Okay, I'll share my screen and we can just watch this short little trailer.
The whistling winds and bitter cold.
How exciting does that look? Right, Stuart, take it away. I'll get your slides up and over to you.
Thank you very much. I think it was Jill who mentioned Leopoldstadt just now, actually, and a few others. But you may remember a face from that trailer, Noof Uselam, who played the character John Allen in our short film, was in Leopoldstadt as well. And we haven't seen it yet, but we're very excited to. Yeah, so that was a trailer for our film, The Leary, which we made last year. It's about a lamplighter in the 1800s who is facing the end of electricity, at the end of gas lighting, and the change to electricity. And it's him dealing with those changes in an unhealthy way, and the bureaucracy that comes with it, which manifests in this kind of gothic horror, these visions and dreams that he has of this electric spirit that comes to him. Joe, do you want to talk any more about the film?
Yeah, I mean, since we've wrote it, we've shown it at some festivals, so London Short Film Festival, Cambridge Film Festival, and Berlin British Shorts, which has been great, you know, for this little idea we had, not thinking we'd get, you know, much funding for this story with very regional dialect, and quite honed in on a specific thing. You know, it's been a good start.
Yeah. Next slide, please, Tom. So first of all, we might talk a little bit about what a short film is, because it might be a term that you haven't necessarily come across in your day-to-day life. A short film is essentially a way of filmmakers being able to make a contained narrative on a small budget, because it's very difficult to access the kind of funding that it takes to make a feature film. But a short film is a contained 15 to 45 minute or even shorter film, which can be a proof of concept for a larger project. So short filmmakers often start their careers by making shorts at university, going on to make shorts with bigger funding bodies, and then using those as calling cards for their future work, for their future feature films. And you can see there Joe on set with our actor Ian Peary, who was a great Scottish actor, who really brought his Aberdeenshire dialect as well to the already Scots language of the film. He was brilliant. Joe, do you want to talk a little bit more about short films and why we make them?
Yeah, I mean, with short films, it's a strange one because there's not at the moment really a place where you can just go and watch short films. So for us, we have to keep our short film that we spent so much time and money on sort of close to our chest, because festivals won't let us have it online. And the whole point of us, applying to festivals is to, potentially help us get our foot in the door with bigger production companies, BBC, Channel 4, places like that can help us move on to the next thing. This is something that we've done that can show that we can write a story, it's contained, direct it, and produce a vision, which is on this slide you can see the storyboard there to the sort of end result there. But there's more platforms coming up that are making it easier to watch short films. Like there's a website called Pause, P-A-U-S, where it's trying to become the Netflix for short films. So it might be something that, because there's so many filmmakers making short films, that soon it will be people watching, a lot more shorts.
Next slide, please, Tom. Thanks. You can see here a little bit of our process. This is kind of a script to screen example from one of the pages of our script to the storyboard stage to the actual shots we ended up with in the film. And the Leary was a 15-page script, which ended up being exactly a 15-minute film on the dot, which met the BFI standards just. And next slide as well. Again, thanks. So this is some of our other work. The Leary was the first film that Joseph and I wrote and made together. Before that, I made a film called Paul is Dead, which was a short comedy about the conspiracy theory that Paul McCartney died in the 60s and was replaced by a lookalike. And we kind of rehoused that concept and put it in the Lake District. So the Beatles are on a musical retreat and it goes disastrously wrong. They wake up and Paul has died of a mystery drug overdose, and they have to hike up to the top of a mountain in this kind of psychedelic fugue state to lay him to rest. So that was a fun project, and that's something that we're also developing as a feature film at the moment. So we wrote the script last year, and we're working with a film studio to get some funding for it, basically. And on the top left there is our co-writer, Bill Sutton, who can't be with us today, unfortunately, but he's a Cumbrian poet and musician and stop motion animator. And that is a still from one of his music videos, which he made himself, which was an animation, stop motion animation. And next slide again, please, Tom. Which brings me on to our next project, which we're here today to talk about. So, bear with me, sorry. Yeah, our next short film project is a film called Corpse Road, which is a 5 or 6 page script, which myself, Joe, and Bill, who I just mentioned, wrote together. and it's set on the old corpse roads of Cumbria in the 1500s. For those who don't know about the corpse roads, they are ancient pathways which intersect the Cumbrian landscape. And they were used until the 18th century for remote outlying communities to transport their dead across the fells to the nearest consecrated graveyard to bury their dead. And there are, they are paths which you can still walk today. And we really want to, with this film, capture those landscapes and the stories of the people who would have had to make those arduous journeys for miles and miles over like the cold winter fells, with dragging miserable, dragging their, beloved ones' corpses. I'll read to you the synopsis of the short as well. I always find it's the best way to kind of get across the story in a succinct way. So, Cumbria, 1525, when it falls onto Thomas Fowler, a begrudging farmer, to take his mother-in-law's body over the cold winter fells to the nearest consecrated graveyard, he spitefully resolves to refuse her a Christian burial, instead consigning her remains to a prison in the earth. Blaming the old woman for his broken marriage, failed crops, and drinking problem, he delves deep into the bowels of an old slate mine. There he is plagued by demonic apparitions and must confront his persecution complex and repent for his sins, or face his own eternal incarceration. And if we go to the next slide, and I can hand over to Joe to talk more about the style of the film and some of the references as well visually as the director.
So I'm not from Cumbria. I'm from the Black Country, and recently went up to Cumbria to do a recce, basically have a look at the locations where we were thinking of filming and just take it all in. And the style of this piece is, very Bergman, this almost Shakespeare sort of soliloquy that our character, Thomas Fowler, is, telling us as he's taking his mother-in-law across the corpse road. I'm not sure if you could tell from the trailer, but we're both like bleak and gothic feeling things. That do have a lot of comedy as well. When you watch the Leary, there is a lot of comedy in there. But we're also really interested in putting Britain on screen because it's something that you don't really see. There's a handful of films that you can look at and be like, wow, that's the England or Britain that I know. A lot of films are shot here, but not made to look like here, or just set in London. But there's so much to the country with dialects and history that it's just something that we're very eager to explore and to bring attention to, and sort of put it through our lens and show this story of someone's, mental sort of collapse. And that's why short films kind of work great for something like this. It's this nice contained little story that we can show a part of the country that people may not have seen before in this way, tell the story about a time in history, using folklore and, everything like that.
Yeah. It also feeds into an ongoing project of mine and Bill's, which is this idea of re-mythologizing Cumbria. And trying to reclaim the landscape from the twee, romantic, pastoralized image of, English Lakeland, and return to a darker side of the landscape, reclaiming the kind of romantic, Wordsworthian lens of which people view the Lake District, even calling it the Lake District. For example, in 1724. Daniel Defoe, who wrote Robinson Crusoe, came through and said it was the wildest, most barren and frightful of any that he's passed over in England. And if I have time, before we conclude, I'd like to read one of Bill's poems, which is around this theme, or an excerpt from it. I'll be quick. It's called Landscapes of a Dying Season by Bill Sutton. Does angel light betray the presence of gods or ghosts, like Christ on the cross echoes in the sanctity of stained glass? Something far more ancient exists here. The darkness wrapped around each house, the rain evoking voices from the stone, some sacred ache, the old crow picking at bones, stooped for millennia, arched back beneath the ancient rain. Silence echoing silence, drop echoing drop. The grass-grown stone forehead with the furrowed brow, crowned with oak, watching. The saddle bends against the setting sun, the procession stones mark meter under the stars. An arc of dark, the knotted hills, a line as straight as Roman roads leads to Venus in the Western Dome, where she's always been. What seems ancient is not, what seems young is old, and deep in the root, other histories are told. Next slide, please, Tom. Which comes on to the main reason we're here, which is to tell you about Corpse Road and ask for some support, essentially. We're currently in pre-production for the film. So we've written the script and we have some crew attached, penciled in, and a vague shooting date of April, May time. So kind of late spring. And we're going to be shooting in Cumbria, obviously, in the Lake District. We're thinking Mosedale, the Mosedale Valley at the moment. And we're talking to the landowners through a producer that I know who lives in Cumbria. We're also looking for a cave location, which is quite difficult when you're talking to National Trust, because they are not very receptive to allowing young broke filmmakers to come and trample about in their caves. So we're looking at potentially a cave in Yorkshire, which is a little bit less touristy as well, so we can get better access to it for sound and just for locking the space off as well. But I mean, any suggestions for locations, you know, with good access that are remote would be great. Which Mosedale? The Mosedale in the North Lakes, near, I forget where it's near. But where was I? Sorry. Yeah, we're also just looking to expand our contacts within the industry. We've been sending the Leary out to a lot of film festivals, and we've been meeting a lot of interesting people and producers. So anybody that you think would be interested in this project, we'd love to get in touch with. And the final thing is, next slide, please, Tom, that we are doing a Kickstarter for this project as well. We ran a successful Kickstarter for the Leary, which topped our budget that we got from the BFI up to the full budget we needed. And for this project, we're doing a more modest Kickstarter. So we're trying to raise £1,500 in 30 days, just to cover things like kit hire, costume making, props rentals, and paying cast and crew. So we were hoping that the Kickstarter would be live today, but unfortunately the Kickstarter gods have not approved it yet. But when they do, I hope to share it all with you, potentially next week, and ask that if you're able to share it with friends and family and anybody you think would be interested or able to help in any way, that would be amazing, and we'd be forever grateful. Joe, do you want to finish off by saying anything?
Yeah, I mean, if people are interested, like I mentioned with the Leary, that we're not allowed to publicly share it, but if people are interested by the trailer, I do want to see something we've done together, I'm happy to arrange a private link that people can watch. It's like Stu said, it's 15 minutes long, so we can figure that out. And I also thank you for all the cave suggestions. I'm on my phone, so I can't see the chat too easy, but we will be investigating those today. But yeah, no, that's great.
Great. Yeah, thank you everybody for listening, and thank you, Tom, for having us on.
Absolute pleasure,
good morning.
Stuart and Joe. You are amazing young men that are doing amazing things in Cumbria. I'm just going to open up the chat, which I've had to have closed while I've been sharing. But can I just ask you a question very briefly? And if anyone's got any questions, bung them into chat or raise your hand. Where did this all start for you, Stuart and Joe? How did this all start for you? Bam, little boy at Lazenby Primary School.
More or less, yeah. I mean, I wasn't very academic at school, and kind of got along with media studies. I went to Ullswater in Penrith, and ended up going to university in London to study film. And that's where I met Joe. But we didn't actually work together when we were at university. We didn't work together until we had actually graduated. But yeah, I mean, I was always interested in these themes, and I think that screenwriting and filmmaking was the natural way to get that out of myself, I think, in a visual way. Yeah,
it's just like, you're having a conversation with your friend and you start to talk about something. Oh, wouldn't this be cool? And the next thing you know, you're spending £21,000 making something look Victorian and old and weird, and it's just very fun, and it's better than having a proper job.
Lots of suggestions in chat, which you've noted there, Stuart.
Yeah,
Jessie Binns from the National Trust, she's often on this call and is a friend of the network. And Sue's also just mentioning Alan Cleaver's book about Corpse Roads, which I think I mentioned to you in an email this week, Stuart, which is definitely worth you having a look at as well.
Yeah.
But a couple of questions. Amy, off you go.
Hi, thanks for coming on the call. It's been lovely to hear about films and about short films. One thing we've been talking about recently is sort of keeping creative people in Cumbria, particularly young people. And, if you're kind of creative as a young person, people often obviously move away from the county to get some opportunities and then sometimes end up moving back later on. So I'd just be interested to know, obviously you said you were at school in Ullswater and then moved off to London to go to uni. Was that kind of a definite direct route that, the school kind of said, this is what you should do? Or was it something you kind of thought would be the best thing yourself to do?
Yeah, for me, it wasn't just just to get opportunities, career-wise. It was kind of a bigger kind of cultural move within my life as well. I mean, and Cumbria is somewhere that I will always keep coming back to, and not, I don't want to have left and then come back. I want to kind of constantly be there and dipping in and out and making creative projects with people in Cumbria and keeping, a toe in the lake,
Lovely, thanks.
Andrew.
Amy sort of asked my question, which was about that notion of relocating and being able to function from Cumbria. But the other thought I had, I mean, fantastic work, by the way. I mean, just keep going, like Bob says. Really fantastic work. But it's around, you made a comment about it's very difficult to show short films, which had never occurred to me, because short films, it's like a short story. It's a genre all of its own rather than a stepping stone to making feature films. And I wonder whether, not today, but whether we could all put our heads together, or those people interested in how we could find a means of encouraging and showing short films as a thing in themselves, not as some sort of watered down feature film. We're a music organisation based in Barrow, and we're just planning a season of short films that have got some music or sound relevance. But I was interested in how you're sort of prevented from showing your own film by festivals, if you want to do that. There's a lot of big questions around that. It'd be really interesting to talk about, maybe at another meeting.
I can quickly summarize. Like, a lot of festivals have premiere status, so if it's online, they don't want to show it because maybe they're thinking, well, it's not special, or people have already seen it. We want to be the ones that showed it first in case it takes off and wins an award. But once we've finished our festival run, we can put it online. And like I mentioned, there's a platform that's like a short film Netflix or Pause, and then we can take it to film clubs, that kind of thing. Because we definitely want it to have a life. We don't want it to just sit on a shelf.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing it. But great work. Keep
Thank you.
Going.
Thank you.
One or two
Like
people
Joe said
mentioning. Sorry,
Oh,
Stuart. One or two people mentioning that Keswick Film Festival are looking for some shorts at the moment, and Lorna mentioning that some community film clubs, Roxy Film Club in Ulverston and Colton Film Club, are local to her in the south of the county. So again, have a look at the chat, and there's some suggestions coming through there. Danielle.
Hi, so there's three things I was just wondering. Have you, or now might be a good time to ask any of the galleries and museums that you might be able to loan some of their costumes that have already been in their collection that the public try on. So that might cut some costs down and extend your network. I've typed it up before I say it, so I'm not going to forget where I'm going. Have you asked the Cumbrian University in the Textiles Fashion Department to see if any of their first or second years for the PPD units of their work experience to create a live project with them so they can design the costumes for you and with you? And they'll have funding for that. And then the other one was if you've connected with any of the Cumbrian media to partnership up, because if you are under 30, they've got extra funding for that. So I know that Signal Films in Barrow might be able to catch up with them. So
Okay,
I've put that in the chat as well. So
Nice. That's all
thank you very
helpful.
much.
And thanks, Danielle. And Liz Stevenson, who's the artistic director at Theatre by the Lake, has just popped in chat there. Theatre by the Lake has a huge costume store. Get in touch if you need some help. So that's a good offer from Liz as well.
Thank you, Liz.
So when do you think you might be filming this in Cumbria? Did you say the spring?
Yeah, I mean, it's all dependent on funding, really, but hopefully spring. If this Kickstarter goes well, by the end of February, we'll have the budget that we need. And then 30 days after that, we'll have the money in our bank account to begin production.
It must be like herding cats trying to produce a film like that.
Yeah, a lot of the time you have to sit on something and wait for the time to be right, and then just drop everything and, you know, jump on it. But we've had a baptism by fire for the last short film, so something like this, which is a lot smaller in scale, seems a lot more feasible in that time period.
And then the weather.
Yeah.
If the weather's bad, it's great for us. We spent from 7 p.m. till 7 a.m. in a field in pouring rain for the Leary, so we're used to you know, the awful conditions. But it looks good on screen, so
yeah. All right, Stuart. Anything else you want to say, or are we done?
No, I think I'm done. Just thank you very much for all the suggestions that keep coming in on the chat. It's nice to come in here and have that support. And yeah, thank you everybody for having us.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your amazing stuff. Keep it up. You have to have resilience. If I can just say to people, I've watched the short trailer for the Beatles one in the Lake District. It's very, very funny. And it's very, very good. So Stuart and Joe, if you can put your contacts and websites and links to anything into chat, I would recommend people check that out. And if I'm organized, I'll put it onto the Facebook group later on today as well, so people can see that. It's a really imaginative and different take on the story. And really good luck with everything. You know, I hope we stay in contact with you. It's great to hear stuff, but I don't think we have any filmmakers on before, so it's great to hear your story. And good luck with the new film, Corpse Roads. Look forward to watching it.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everybody.
Right, from films to other stuff going on in Cumbria. So I'm going to go to Stefan first, and then we're going to go to Ella and find out what events, what things are going on. So Stefan, tell us about your new production in Keswick.
So Ragged Edge, the company I run, have a new strand of work called Audio Adventures, where we produce audio walks which are enhanced by the appearance of live performers. And that's built on the idea that I think it's really good to have a shared experience with an audience, because there's fantastic audio work that's available out there. The Conflict and Collision project that was on Hadrian's Wall a while ago was just terrific, and you could go and stream on demand on your own through an app on your phone. But we go about it in a different way. We give people headsets, and we use pretty basic silent disco gear actually, so it's radio transmission, quite robust. So punters turn up and they don't have to worry about all that side of it. That's how it works. But what we do is we take an audience on a walk, on a journey, and we've responded to that particular place. So what we're offering at half term between Wednesday the 16th and Saturday the 19th of February is a cheeky version of Red Riding Hood. And that's going to be in Cockshot Wood behind Theatre by the Lake. And Theatre by the Lake, again, have been really supportive, as have the National Trust, who really like creative offers on their property. Stuart and Joseph. If you talk to the right folk, they will try, I think. So this is intended for 5 to 10-year-olds and their families, lasts about half an hour. It's a surprising and participatory version of the story you think you know, with a bit of an environmental subtext, without bashing that over the head. So audio ventures, they're fun, they're outdoor, and they bring together the powerful intimacy of audio with the spectacle and thrill of being outdoors with performers live. So you can book it at Theatre by the Lake's website. It's gone live. Get in there now, because we like to make these intimate affairs. Audience of 15, so those tickets will go. If you've got little people in your life, should be something fun to do, a chance to play out at half term.
Excellent, thank you, Stefan. So it's a half term. Give us the dates again, Stefan.
Wednesday the 16th to Saturday the 19th, and we do 2 shows a day, because they're short shows, about 30, 40 minutes.
Excellent, thank you. And Claire's just putting there, Claire Logan Stevens. I was lucky to go on one of Stefan's audio walks. It was totally brilliant, to quote Claire. I've also been on one. It was great fun and really, really enjoyable and different as well. So thank you, Stefan. Right, Ella, I think you wanted to mention something as well. Off you go.
Yeah, so I work for Lakeland Arts. So we run a number of sites, but I'm going to focus on Windermere Jetty Museum today. We have an event next Saturday, and it's the relaunch of a group called Artist Educators Northwest. And they want to restart and relaunch themselves because after the events of the pandemic, they sort of fell apart a little bit because of obvious reasons, but they want to start meeting in person again. And we're helping them for that year. So it's for anyone who works in the arts, particularly in a teacher role, educator role. If you're a creative practitioner or a facilitator, it can be any kind of medium. And we're running a free event between 10 till 12. And it's at Windermere Jetty Museum. You get a free goodie bag from free art supplies provided by Dryad Education. Emma Bush from Curious Minds is going to be there to talk about how they can support you. There's going to be an artist workshop led by Emma Robertson, based on architecture and design. You get a free tour of the museums led by our curator. So you'll get to see the Rector experience that Danielle and Simon were talking about earlier today. You get to have a go yourself on the day as well. And of course, caffeine and cake and anything else we can refresh you with during the day. So it's just a lovely way to meet people on site in a beautiful building and place. We were REBA nominated last year. You get to be in a lovely location and hopefully meet some people and connect and work with us to rebuild this network. So I'm going to drop the link here onto the chat so you can have a little look yourself. And any questions, just ask me. But we hope to see you there. It's next Saturday, 10 till 12, and completely free. So I'll send you the link on the chat below. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ella. Sounds good. Jonathan in Millom, tell us what you were saying before people join the meeting. What's going on with you in Millom?
Yes, good morning. But firstly, I must say I'm a little disappointed, looking at the chat, that no one has complimented us in Millom on the magnificent Millom light. Look at this dramatic lighting effect that we've achieved here. You know, Vermeer would have killed for this. Caravaggio probably did. Just as you're opening, the lady, I spotted she had her laundry racks, and I thought, well, I can do that. We've got my laundry rack here, and I've got my Kindle on it. That's why you get this slight seasickness effect. But anyway, chiaroscuro, that's what you need to think about when you think of Millom, and that's what we're using for a little exhibition we have down at Holy Trinity Church. It's the Norman church down by the castle in Millom, and we transferred an exhibition which was commissioned by Wordsworth Grasmere. They were celebrating the 200th anniversary of the Duddon Sonnet. Millom sits on the Duddon estuary, and they commissioned a series of tapestries, 40-odd tapestries, which commemorate the poems in the 34 Dudden sonnets. And these all got folded up over the summer, and we thought, well, that's a bit of a shame. Let's bring them down to Millom. So with a bit of putting together of local volunteers and interested people, we're just coming to the end of a run of 8 days of exhibition. If you want to come and see the exhibition, it is
Are you still there, Jonathan? Jonathan has frozen temporarily, just as he was about to give us the dates. So we'll come back to Jonathan if we can. But in the meantime, let's cross to Ulverston and to Beth Kennedy, who runs the Coronation Hall, who I think has got some opportunities going there, Beth. So if you are there, Beth, tell us what's going on.
Hello, thanks, Tom. We have a few really exciting opportunities that have come up at the Coro in Ulverston. The first that I'll talk about briefly is a brand new creative learning programme that we're developing, and that's in direct response to community consultation and the news that we've heard from people that they feel that there are not as many opportunities to go on evenings and weekends to creative learning courses and classes kind of in the vicinity of Ulverston. So we're developing a brand new suite of opportunities for people to partake in, if you like, on evenings and weekends, certainly to begin with. And the way that we are developing that, instead of curating a set of courses and then seeking creative practitioners to come in and deliver them, we're going out to creative practitioners and asking you what you could deliver to help us create the course with us. So we have a call out now to creative practitioners across the region to ask you to submit proposals to what you think could be delivered as part of this creative learning programme, which we're really excited about. And we really, really want to keep it as broad as possible. So whether that's things like painting and drawing, or whether it's language, or whether it's dance or singing, or whether it's digital skills as well, we're really, really interested. So as much as it's creative learning, we're using that term in the broadest possible sense. We're not looking for formal teaching experience necessarily, just some experience potentially of delivering to groups or individuals, or at least the ability to demonstrate that that you could do so and put together a reasonably structured course. So all the details of that are on the website, which I'll pop in the chat. And we've also got some more standard employment opportunities as well. We're developing a whole new customer experience team, which looks after the front of house. So we have a senior role, a head of customer experience there, but also a range of opportunities for customer experience team leaders. And one of the nice things about this role as well is, while it's very, very front of house focused, we know that people, particularly younger people at the beginning of their careers, often want to work in venues because they want to get experience in the creative industries on the whole, and potentially to try different things out. So we've carved out a set number of hours in each of these jobs to be able to work specifically on a creative project of the person's choice, in line with what's going on in the building. So that's really exciting too. And we're also looking for a new business development and finance manager as well. All of the details of all of the roles are on the website. Somebody's just asked the question, which is, when is the Eco Fair? Off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but it is live on the website now. So I'll find out and I'll pop that in the chat too.
Thank you, Beth. It's all going on in Ulverston, and what a great place the Coro is. And I know the plans are coming together for the summer, so good luck with all of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Beth. Right, before we go to Phil Hewitson, we're just going to, Jonathan, are you back with us? Jonathan Powell, are you back with us?
Yes, I'm not sure what it is. It's the Millom Light and the Millom Broadband.
It's all right. If you can just wrap up, Jonathan, we just didn't get the dates that you were talking about.
Friday, the 4th of February, noon, at Holy Trinity Church Millom, is a Meet the Artists, where the Flax Group are happy to discuss, principally with other artists and people interested in their techniques, how they put together these tapestries. There are some 6-foot-odd stretches of tapestry. They also have tapestries which each artist was given one of the Dudden sonnets and had to come up with a small tapestry. The only stipulation was it must hold a pocket, must have a pocket in the tapestry into which a viewer can reach for the sonnet, draw it out, and read the sonnet while looking at the artwork. But anyway, Friday, the 4th of February at noon, Holy Trinity Milam, for Meet the Artist of Flax. Thank you.
Jonathan, thank you. Right, we're going to talk a bit more about poetry now. And by the way, Stuart, thank you for reading that poem out earlier on. There's always space for poetry on this call as far as I'm concerned. And as mentioned at the start of this meeting, Tony Hendry was a great poet based in Carlisle. And Phil Hewitson in particular knew him well, better than I did. Published a lovely collection of his last year through the Coldew Press, which Phil runs, called Fresh Air. And I'd just like to invite Phil just to say a few words about Tony, who died quite suddenly this week, and perhaps to reflect on one of his poems as well. So Phil, over to you.
Thank you very much, Tom. Yes, I've got a few notes I'd like to share a few words about Tony, and then, as you say, I'll read a poem. Yeah, Tony Hendry, he was a good man. He was very kind and supportive and a brilliant poet. And the news of his passing has come as a real shock to many who knew him, and he'll be very much missed. He actually grew up in Cockermouth, and he worked in the civil service in London for many years before retiring in 2010 in Carlisle. And that's where he joined local writing and poetry groups, including the Speakeasy Open Mic Nights. Tony had a lifelong stammer, but he was always determined that would not stop him from sharing his words. And it was always inspiring to see and hear him share his poems. And when Tony sang on the occasion where he wanted to share a song, his stammer disappeared and he was so fluent. He loved folk music and supported the local folk music scene and festivals, including Music on the Mar. And I know, Tom, you were a big driving force behind that. He was thrilled to see you, Tom, at a Poets Out Loud open mic, which was at the Kirkgate in Cockermouth in September 2021. And afterwards, he said to me, "Tom is a good man. He makes things happen." So he was a good judge of character. Yes, in 2019, he approached Coldew Press to produce a collection of his poetry, and it was a great collaboration with him and Susan Cartwright-Smith to produce Fresh Air. This is the collection, Fresh Air. And he was really thrilled with the little book we produced. And he was also thrilled with his book launch, which happened at Cakes and Ale in Carlisle, and with the readings that my friend Becca Roberts and I did of his work alongside the man himself. He loved Cumbria, the Lake District, the landscape, the myths, the nature, and he climbed all the Wainwrights, and this was often reflected in the really beautiful poems which he wrote. And I could have picked any of the poems from here in this collection, and I'm going to pick one called Rose Hip Syrup. It goes like this. Today, I pick a rose hip and flip it into the Coldew. It races on rough brown water after the first storm of autumn. It isn't ripe enough. 50 years ago, we had to wait for the glowing red of half term. No green or orange tints allowed. A national collection scheme. Cash for rose hips, made into rose hip syrup for pregnant mums at Del Rosa's factory in Wallsend. So, kids with canvas buckets on the wild, scratching banks of another swift Cumbrian river, all gloveless, droplets of blood the colour of hawthorn berries, hips and haws never far apart. The rate per pound was dismal, but the real rewards were high. Gathering hips wasn't like Cubs, where we dib-dib-dobbed on cue and gathered badges to avoid the hot red cheeks of failure. No Arcalas on Derwent banks. No mums and dads, no teachers. Red blood was ours to expend. River waters ours to tumble into. Hips for us, haws for thrushes. Charms are red masked goldfinches on thistleheads. The cobalt zip of kingfishers as we picked. On the flats across the river, loping hares stopped to look. In the slow gold fall of the year, I sensed a sort of oneness that we mostly lose in time. Wordsworth said it better. He was ours, born by Derwent, a mile from where we picked. Today, I pick another rosehip and flip it into the collu. Hendry. There you go.
Phil, thank you so much. What a beautiful poem. I'm looking at a copy of the book as well myself. It's got some wonderful illustrations, and I know a friend of his did, Hunt Emerson. He was a great man, and he had this dreadful stammer, and he was one of the bravest men I knew. He stood up and he read poetry out, and it wasn't easy for him, but we all had patience for him because of the quality of what he did and because of his presence. And it didn't stop. It wasn't a barrier to him performing, and I totally respected him for that. And he's a great, great loss to the cultural scene of Cumbria. And I commend Fresh Air by Tony Hendry to anybody who wants to have time to reflect about Cumbria and to reflect about the natural world and our places in it. Phil, thank you so much for sharing those thoughts about him. I know he was a good friend of yours, and for sharing that wonderful poem with us as well. Rest in peace, Tony.
Thank you very much.
Right, one or two people are joining for the meeting ahead, the next hour, looking at the West Cumbria cultural strategy. So welcome to those people. But before we finish, I'd just like to invite Stefan just to talk a little bit about what we're doing tomorrow with the quarterly meeting, which is taking place at Braithey, and also why we're doing the subject matter that we've chosen about it and what's happening. Some of you may be able to join us there or be online. We're certainly recording the meeting. And by the way, we always record these Friday meetings as well. Amy always puts them back up onto the website by the end of Monday the following week. So if you missed any and want to catch up, they're always there. But I'm going to pass you over to Stefan. Stefan, over to you.
Well, to answer the point you raised there, Tom, some time ago, Kate Parry came up with a brilliant idea that we should focus these quarterly meetings, our big get-togethers, around the new Arts Council strategy and the investment principles that lie at the heart of that. And that was because they're interesting subject matter, but also it's a very practical thing to look at for all of us, because I guess most of us at some point will be having to deal with Arts Council funding applications and the relationship with that organisation. I'm sad to say that in the end, the Arts Council aren't able to attend tomorrow, but I hope we'll get them back to talk about quality and ambition. As you all know, we focused on the environment and sustainability in the last quarterly. And of course, the quarterlies to come will look at the other investment principles. But tomorrow, it's a very lively day and a very exciting opportunity to blend an in-person meeting with an online meeting. So please, if you can get to Braithey, it's not too late to sign up. COVID restrictions have relaxed a little, but Braithey is still looking after people. So the links to attend are available on the Facebook group, links through the website and so forth. It'd be lovely to see you there. It's very exciting because beyond the meeting in the morning, where we have a really great lineup of speakers, Braithey are hosting the conclusion to the Changing Culture programme, which has been an exciting opportunity for a cohort of young creative entrepreneurs to go through a 2-year access course to develop their skills. Many people involved with CACN have been supporting that as hosts and mentors. and they're doing a very lively presentation in the afternoon. Details of that were published earlier in the week as well. So lots to go for if you can turn up to Braithwaite, including a free lunch. And it's a very bonny spot if you haven't been. We'll get Braithwaite back on the calls, we know this, to talk about what they can offer the network. But tomorrow we've got Hazel Blears talking about her extraordinary career and her commitment to the creative sector in Cumbria. We've got Janet Walker from Anti-Racist Cumbria. We've got a woman called Lindsay Jackson, who is the Deputy CEO of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. And she's on because she's already had a very important effect and impact on that cohort of students. She's had a very interesting career herself, and reflects on quality ambition through her own personal experience and her roles in the industry. And then we've got some really great case studies as well. We've got Andrew Mackay from Tully House. We've got Marie Mohan from Common Purpose, who is there to talk about a new initiative for young people in Cumbria. And then we've got Josh and Josh from Horizon Studios, who are better known as Swerve and JD. And they are music producers down in Barrow and have extraordinary stuff on YouTube, great creative work down there. And they, picking up with the conversation we had earlier, they're all about creating opportunities to make work in Cumbria that talks about Cumbria. Why should you have to move away to get involved in the music industry? So they're on a quest there to create opportunities. So a very lively day. Hope people can attend either in person, but please join us on Zoom otherwise. We're going to facilitate that in a way that includes everyone. You'll be on a big screen for those that are there in person, and we'll make sure that communication is as smooth as possible. And yet again, it will be recorded. So should you not be able to make it, it'll be available later on.
Great, thank you very much, Stefan. I'll be there and looking forward to hearing speakers and taking part in the conversations and discussions as well. Just on the way down to Kendal today, for me from Cockermouth, I was listening to Radio Cumbria, and Josh have just written a really great song actually in reaction to the terrible stabbing of the young man in Barrow that took place this week. And I know that the that big knife angel, is that the right phrase, is in Barrow at the moment. It was in Carlisle earlier on, and they've written a fantastic song, and I think they made a little video of it as well, in reaction to the circumstances and situation that's going on in Barrow with the stabbing and with the knife angel being there. So they are two gifted young men. We'll certainly be doing more with them, I think, and get them on to a call in the next few weeks. But I know they're appearing at the session tomorrow. So just amazing what's going on in Cumbria at the moment, and people reacting to stuff that's going on as well. Right, I think we're coming to the end. So if you're joining us for the 10:30 to 11:30 West Cumbria Cultural Strategy meeting, do stay on the call. Next week, a reminder, we have Andy Smith, who is the organizer of Kendal Calling, probably Kendal's biggest festival, Cumbria's biggest festival, and it hasn't run for the last 2 years, and I know it's been an absolute nightmare for them. So they are so looking forward to running it this year, and he'll tell us all about how they've coped and how they put it all together. And then a reminder, Katie Hale, one of the finest writers that Cumbria has at the moment on its books, talking to us about what's it like being a writer, how do you exist, how do you get all those applications in, how do you deal with the rejections that sometimes come your way, and what's it like to be a published author. So it should be a good session next week as well. I think that's all for me to say. Thank you to Stuart and to Joe. Good luck with the filming again. Thank you to Phil for that lovely tribute to Tony as well. And thank you to everybody else for your contributions this morning. Stick around on the call if you want to talk about the West Cumbria strategy. Otherwise, maybe see you tomorrow on a screen or in person at Braithwaite, and catch you next Friday for Andy and for Katie as well. Lovely to see so many faces this morning. Take care, everybody.